baby, oh, oops, I did it again. I play with your heart and lost at the game. Oh, baby, baby, bum, 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 bum. YNCA,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's me, your favorite host, alien ever in the whole galaxy. In this podcast, it's really interesting, something that I wanted to share with you all, and this is related to AI. This is why it's so important to you to know that you have to work on your conscience, because conscience is the only thing you really possess. It's the only thing that will allow you to go to the fourth dimension, five dimension, and connect with me and other entities around the entire galaxy. It's the only thing that will allow you to travel at the speed of light. It's your conscious. So your breathing is a bridge between mind and matter, and this is something that you have to understand. This is what it is. At the end, technology will eat you alive, because you will lose. I mean, no, I'm just more advanced than you. I mean, I have thousands of years, 100,000 years of evolution, so I know what I'm telling you. Okay, so please take a note.
All right, so we're diving into this Dr. Bret Weinstein interview, right? He's like, really got some thoughts on where we're headed as a species. Big stuff.
Yeah.
Existential threats, like the things that make you go, in the dead of night.
Yeah, the heavy hitters.
We're talking solar flares, but not just like, a blackout for a few hours. He is suggesting entire continents could go dark.
Months, even longer, he says.
No internet, no grid, no nothing. Can you imagine?
Try explaining that one to the kids.
Right. It's not like, just resetting your wifey.
Nope. And Dr. Weinstein, he brings up the Carrington event, 1859. It actually happened. Massive solar storm wiped out, well, back then it was mostly the telegraph system. But imagine that today.
Everything relies on electricity.
Everything. So that's kind of spooky, right?
It's like, how do we even begin to prepare for something like that? And he mentioned something about Earth's magnetic field too, right?
Yeah, the magnetic field. Think of it like our planet's force field. It protects us from the worst of those solar storms.
And he's saying it's getting weaker.
Weakening. And the magnetic poles are shifting faster than we thought. Actually, Dr. Weinstein thinks this is even more pressing than climate change.
Wow. More pressing than climate change, but do you ever hear anyone talking about it?
Not enough, that's for sure.
It's almost like it's just too big to think about.
Maybe. Or maybe we're too busy with the day-to-day to wrap our heads around it. Speaking of big things to think about, we gotta talk AI.
Oh, here we go. Down the rabbit hole.
Right. Because it's not all, self-driving cars and robot butlers, is it? Dr. Weinstein gets into some seriously scary territory with AI, and one that really stuck with me, this idea that AI could mess with our perception of reality. Fundamentally.
Okay, now that is a scary thought. How would we even know?
That's the question, isn't it? He describes this future, right, where AI gets so good at feeding us exactly what we want to hear, what we already believe, that we lose all sense of objective truth.
An echo chamber, but on steroids.
Exactly. Your social media feeds, the news, even what your friends are sharing, it would all just confirm your biases all the time. You'd be trapped in this loop of your own making, and you might not even realize it.
So it's instead of AI helping us break free from our echo chambers, it just makes them inescapable.
It's kind of terrifying when you think about it, right? And it goes beyond social media, obviously. Think about the news, education, even just having a regular conversation with someone. If you can't trust the information you're basing your reality on, how can you actually connect with anything?
It's like we're headed towards this world where reality is customizable. You can just have it your way, facts be damned.
Yeah, precisely. And it's not just about the information itself either. Dr. Weinstein talks about this event horizon with AI. The pace of development is happening so fast that at some point we just lose the ability to even understand what's real and what's not.
Okay, I'm starting to feel a little existential dread creeping in here. Got any examples?
Think about deepfakes. A few years ago, it was pretty easy to spot a fake video, right? Now, I mean, even experts are getting fooled. And we're talking not just videos, but audio too. You could have AI generating a voice that sounds exactly like yours, saying things you never actually said.
Okay, yeah, that's messed up. But how does that tie into this whole event horizon thing?
Well, imagine a world where movies are so realistic, so good at replicating the human experience that you can't tell the difference between a memory and something you saw on screen.
Well, hold up. So you're saying, like, I might watch a movie and then later on, I wouldn't be able to tell if those events actually happened to me or if I just, like, imagined them.
Exactly. And then multiply that by every other form of media, every bit of information you encounter online. It's like this constant blurring of the lines between what's real and what's AI generated.
And at a certain point, you just lose track completely. It's like, how do you even function in a world like that?
That's the million-dollar question, right? It's
Right.
not like we can just, put the genie back in the bottle at this point. AI is here to stay.
So what do we do? Should we be, like, protesting in the streets, trying to get governments to shut down AI development?
Well, Dr. Weinstein's actually kind of wary of going the regulation route.
Really? Why is that?
He's worried that if we come down too hard, try to control everything, it'll just stifle innovation and potentially make the whole situation worse.
Okay, so if not regulation, then what? We just let AI run wild and hope for the best?
He's a big advocate for transparency. Like, instead of trying to contain AI, we should be focused on understanding it, figuring out how these systems work, how they make decisions, what their biases are.
So, like, get under the hood and see what's really going on in there.
Exactly. He actually uses the analogy of a black box on an airplane.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So if something goes wrong, if the AI makes a decision that has, like, unintended consequences, we can go back and figure out why.
Right. We can trace the steps, understand the logic, and hopefully prevent it from happening again. Because the thing is, AI is already so integrated into our lives. We use it for everything from medical diagnoses to financial trading.
And we're only going to become more reliant on it as time goes on, which means the stakes are only getting higher.
Exactly. This isn't about being afraid of AI. It's about being smart about it. It's about understanding the potential downsides so we can mitigate them and steer this whole thing in the right direction.
So how do we do that? How do we, like, as individuals, wrap our heads around these huge existential questions?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. Dr. Weinstein talks about the importance of realigning with our biology, of looking to our evolutionary history for guidance on how to thrive in this modern world.
Wait, hold on. You're saying we should look to, like, cavemen for advice on how to live in the 21st century?
Not exactly cavemen, but the basic idea is that our bodies and brains haven't quite caught up to the rapid pace of change in the modern world.
So, like, we're still wired for a world of, like, hunting and gathering,
Yeah.
but instead we're stuck in traffic and scrolling through Instagram.
Pretty much. And that mismatch, that disconnect between our ancient biology and our modern environment, it can manifest in all sorts of ways. Anxiety, depression, chronic diseases.
So what's the solution? Do we all need to, like, move to the woods and live off the land?
Well, that's one option, I guess. But Dr. Weinstein's approach is a little more, shall we say, accessible. He talks about focusing on what he calls low-hanging fruit.
Low-hanging fruit. Okay, I like the sound of that. What are we talking about here?
Simple things, really. Eating real food instead of processed junk. Spending more time in nature. Nurturing strong social connections. Basic stuff that our ancestors took for granted.
It's like we all know we should be doing these things, but it's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of modern life and forget about the basics.
Exactly. We prioritize convenience over quality, instant gratification over long-term well-being. But here's the thing. Those cravings, those desires for connection, for being in nature, for real, nourishing food, they're not just arbitrary preferences. They're hardwired into our DNA.
So you're saying it's not just about willpower, it's about working with our biology, not against it.
Precisely. And this isn't just about feeling a little bit happier or healthier. Dr. Weinstein argues that these small changes, these seemingly insignificant choices we make every day, they can actually have a ripple effect.
A ripple effect. How so?
Well, think about it. If you're constantly stressed out, glued to your phone, and fueled by junk food, how present are you really going to be for your family and friends? How effectively are you going to be able to contribute to your community? How clearly are you going to be able to think about those bigger issues we were discussing earlier, like climate change and AI?
Okay, yeah, I see your point. It's like we can't really show up for the big stuff if we're not taking care of ourselves in our own little corner of the world.
Exactly. And he gets into some pretty, let's say, controversial territory with this idea of realigning with our biology. He's pretty outspoken about the potential harms of pornography, especially in the age of, like, unlimited access online.
So with all this crazy stuff we're facing, how do we, like, raise kids to be resilient, in this hyper-novel world and all that?
Yeah, it's a real head-scratcher, right? Dr. Weinstein, he's a big believer in the power of a stable home. Like, that's your foundation.
Makes sense. A safe space amidst all the chaos.
Exactly. And here's the thing. He's not saying we should try to, like, shield kids from technology or pretend the world isn't kind of messed up.
So what, just throw them in the deep end?
Not quite. It's more like challenge them, set high expectations, help them develop those critical thinking skills.
So they can, like, spot the BS in all its forms.
Precisely. And that's crucial in this age of information overload, right? Being able to, like, sift through it all, figure out what's true, what's not. These are survival skills now, in a way.
It's like giving them a mental toolkit for navigating this crazy world.
Exactly. And this isn't just about them, right? It's about the future we're all creating.
Right, because these kids, they're going to inherit all the messes we're making.
Exactly. And if they're not equipped to handle it, well, Dr. Weinstein, he uses this metaphor, right? The canoe headed for the waterfall. Are we just passengers along for the ride, or can we still grab a paddle and steer clear?
It's a powerful image, for sure. And a little terrifying, honestly.
It's meant to be, because the point is we still have a choice. But we gotta act, and we gotta act together.
Together. So, as we wrap up here, what are, like, the big takeaways you want listeners to walk away with after this whole deep dive?
I think the biggest thing is this. Be present. Like, really present. Pay attention to how this modern world, all the tech, all the noise, how it's affecting you, your family, your community.
And not just be aware of it, but actually do something about it.
Exactly. Even small changes can make a difference. Put down the phone, eat real food, spend time in nature, connect with people face to face, and most importantly, don't be afraid to question things. The status quo, the official narratives, your own deeply held beliefs.
Because if we're not questioning things, we're not really thinking, are we?
Exactly. And that's how we end up just floating down that river, headed straight for the falls.
Well said.
Uh-huh.
Well, that about wraps it up for today's deep dive. We've covered a lot, from existential threats to, like, practical tips for living a better life.
It's been a wild ride.
That's for sure. And to all you listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this journey. Keep those questions coming, keep those minds open, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.